yeah. Freedom the people them want, freedom the people them need. Yeah. Freedom the people them want, freedom the people them need. Yeah. Freedom the people them want, freedom the people them need. Yeah. Real man a road. Now bow wolf in a 3 grand a road. Now bow down to no demon a road. UIC when you see man a road, me say yeah. Real man a road. Now bow wolf in a 3 grand a road. Now bow down to no demon a road. UIC when you see man a road. Ready for broke every chain. Then when you free up the people, levitate. Jamaica member, you ever great. I feel burn up the fire upon every snake. Me give thanks in every way. God still a look down once see we safe. UIC run the road long time. GLP and PMP I sell we out. Till I do the test even though we know the end result. If them coulda kill with them catch we and hang we know. No force no coercion, me freedom in a UIC. Freedom the people.
Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of UIC Liberty TV. This is Joseph Patterson, President of UIC Jamaica. Good evening. Can you hear me? I have been having technical difficulties before they finally cut us off the air, but we're back right now, and I'm hoping you can hear me clearly. If you can hear me, let me know, please. Let me know if you can hear me. Good evening, sports fanatic and Janet Ewan. Good night, JMH. Can you hear me? Good night, Asha Lawrence. Wonderful, Asha. Thank you so much. Can you hear me very clearly? Good night, Douglas Harper. Good to see you on again. Joy Smith, welcome and good evening. Good evening, Gloria. Good to see you. Excellent. Excellent. So tonight we have a very interesting topic to talk about. All right, put the mic closer. All right. All right, let me know if that works. How is that? Loud and clear? Wonderful. Hello. Sorry for being away so long. I was in the doghouse in terms of YouTube locking down our account until tonight. It's finally reopened. So I'm here to talk to you on UIC Liberty TV. But you can also find us on UIC Jamaica. So you have the UIC Jamaica YouTube channel, which we weren't using a lot, so the subscription rates is much lower there, but you can find us there as well. And we're back on UIC Liberty TV, and we're also on Facebook, a number of Facebook accounts, so you can see us there. So good night to you all. Please share the live so we can get as many people on as possible. The topic I'm going to be talking about tonight, which is the minimum wage, and the fact that it creates poverty, is a very difficult topic, one that you will not normally hear any politician talk about. And if they talk about the minimum wage, it's normally to give you the normal rhetoric that it needs to be increased, and they are the champions of increasing minimum wage. They're lying to you, of course. They're a part of a major deception, and either that or they're ignorant, of course. So I'm going to tonight dispel some of the myth. I see Gregory George saying minimum wage can be good and bad. Some companies will search for people who are willing to accept lower wages with no form of limit. It can become a disaster in many ways. I think a limit can be set. Gregory George Smith, you are 100% wrong. And I'm going to explain to you why. You're totally wrong, but I know where you're coming from. You are coming from the standpoint of altruism or feeling a moral obligation to do something about poverty. And so they're playing on your emotions. You're using our desire for good. We all want to see everybody earning a living wage, a livable wage, a wage that allows the person to be able to meet their basic needs. We all want a minimum cutoff. We want some kind of safety net in place. And so they play upon our emotions and they trick us. into accepting laws and regulations which actually work against us. And the important thing for you to look at is the effect of a policy and not just the intention. Intentions are good. It's said that the road to good intentions is paved with what? A lot of issues, eh? And so tonight I'm going to hopefully be able to open your eyes to some realities that you may not have thought about. And it's difficult for you to think about it because our education system was designed to mislead. It's designed to deceive. It's designed to get us to see things the wrong way. It's like being born and somebody putting a glasses right on your eyes immediately that distorts the world around you. So your understanding of the world around you becomes so distorted that you even work against your best interest. You even vote for things that would undermine your own personal growth and development. And so tonight we're going to talk about that, the minimum wage. The minimum wage mindset is a very deadly and dangerous mindset. Yeah. Sports fanatic says, to be honest, since I have started to listen to you, I have been very objective, and I'm starting to feel that most of us have been sold an illusion throughout our whole lives. Hidden curriculum. Exactly, sports fanatic. We've been fed a bag of goods, a real lie, and it has deceived us and allowed them to trick us. So recently you'd have seen in the newspaper, the Gleaner, I think it is, where the PSOJ, of all people, the PSOJ, the private sector organization that I've been telling you is the big bad monster which is behind our massively fraudulent, deceptive, and tricky political system, that they're the ones who have paid politicians to deceive us, to trick us, and to steal our monies from us. They're advocating a 30% increase in the minimum wage. Think about that. The private sector organization of Jamaica is advocating a 30% increase in minimum wage. Shouldn't that be lovely? Shouldn't that be a wonderful thing? Shouldn't that be great? Shouldn't we all be celebrating and saying, thank God the private sector organization is on our side, they're working for us, they want to see our lives improve, and so on? Nothing could be farther from the truth. They're simply feeding into the lie because they know it's going to prevent you from revolting. They want to stop the riot from coming. They want to stop the people from revolting. So they want to feed you a little bit more carrot so that you will settle down, calm down, and settle into your poor, impoverished, deceptive system that is systematically robbing you of your purchasing power every single solitary day. Yeah? And so tonight I'm going to share with you first, before we get into the details, a video that will kind of give you the academic version of what I'm going to talk about. This gentleman, who speaks with a European accent, explains how the minimum wage works to negatively impact our society. And he does it in a beautiful way that simplifies it the same way that I would, but it's fully organized with a bit of some diagrams and so on to help your understanding. So that's going to be the precursor to the rest of our discussion. Then, if I have time, I'll share with you an economist. I don't like to refer to anybody by black this or black that because I just see human beings, whatever your color is. It doesn't matter to me whether you're black or white. So I see some people are really keen on black and white issues. What matters though, from a racial standpoint, is that our race, the black race, have had some serious problems, and I'd like to address those and fix those problems. And we've spoken about a lot of that in our solutions. But outside of that, I don't like to be talking about the first black this or the first black that because it's actually, a bit belittling. But this economist happens to be black. His name is Walter Williams, one of my favorite economists. He happens to be black, but he's extremely smart, very, very brilliant economist, and somebody I would consider my teacher. He and another black gentleman by the name of Thomas Sowell, as well as people like Milton Friedman and others who have taken the time to seriously think about economics, not the politics of economics, where you use economics to trick people, but rather the truth, the laws of economics, the infallible laws of economics. And if we understand them, no politicians can trick us. It's like gravity, the laws of gravity. Try as you may, the law stands firm from year to year. There are also laws of economics, they stand firm. And while politicians can try to trick us by suggesting they can do miracles, the laws will defy them. And that's why you end up with what we have today, with high inflations, more and more people shifting from middle class into the lower class, and a greater concentration of wealth in the hands of a few. So what I'm about to share to you today, some people will say that it's right wing and capitalist and so on. I just talk about truth. Whether the person talking about it is capitalist or socialist or communist, what I care about is the truth and the facts and the laws. The economic laws, the physical laws, the social laws, that are not man-made. They are a part of man's nature. And if we fail to understand those laws, then we're easily tricked by a politician. So I see Khalifa Kelly says Milton Friedman was a dangerous economist. Yes, depending on which side of the fence you're on, he's very dangerous because he explains some things that others would not like you to know. So that makes him dangerous to them. Yeah. Um, Gerald Riley is saying minimum wage should be about 50,000 Jamaican a week because in Canada it's about $500 a week. Gerald Riley, you're absolutely wrong. If we were to make minimum wage 50,000 a week in Jamaica, it would destroy the economy instantly. I can assure you of that, instantaneously. And I'm not saying that because I'm trying to protect big business or I'm trying to not have workers receive their proper wages. I'm saying that because it is a law of economics that you cannot set prices by government. Whenever government set prices, you have a problem. It's not the job of government to set wages. The job of government is to protect your rights, protect your right to your life, your liberty, and your property, and allow you to set your wages. You are the best person to set your wages, not the government. And I'm going to show you why in a bit, right? Janet Graham says far right is a talking point of colonial masters. Absolutely. They try to divide us, Janet, into left versus right, socialist versus capitalist, this party versus that party. All of those are non-issues. We need to get rid of those divisions and get to the facts, get to the truth about economics, the truth about life, and focus on the truth and not about left or right, capitalist or socialist. Focus on what are the facts, what is the impact of these policies, not the intent, the so-called intent. Somebody can come to you and say, I care about you, I want you to be happy, and that's their intent. And then after they get you into a corner, then they do some very bad things to you after they got you to depend on them, right? So don't worry about the intent of policies. Focus on the effect of those policies. Yeah. So Joy Smith says, what is the minimum wages now? There are different rates for different class of employees, but generally $7,000, Joy Smith. And there's different rates for like people working in the what you call it now, the security industry and so on. Yeah. Lloyd Smith says that not working anymore, no more division. We're thinking about the way you were done. Yes, Lloyd, very important. We must move away from the divisive thinking, the us versus them in terms of left versus right, this party versus that party. Let's focus on knowing the truth and being able to make sound decisions based on facts, evidence-based decisions, not emotionally driven decisions, not fake moral decisions, but decisions that are based on the facts. So tonight, let me share with you the first video, and then we're going to break it up and talk about pieces to make sure you fully understand what this minimum wage thing is doing, what it did to Jamaica, what it has done to a number of countries, why we have it today, and so on. So let's get into the basic academics of it. Okay? So let's share this everywhere and get every Jamaican to understand why we must abolish the minimum wage. I'm going to try to see if I can bring this link in now. Let me try that, and then we can talk some more about the minimum wage. So let's see here. 1 second. Let's see if we can get to this. Yeah, I think we are just about there. Yeah, there we go. And I'm now going to share this with you. So listen carefully about what this gentleman has to say.
What can we do about low wages? According to many politicians, we only need to raise the minimum wage. If the task is as easy as passing merely one bill, if this will make all workers earn more, then why not just raise the minimum wage to $10,000 or even $20,000? Precisely because it's not that easy, and because the consequences of such a law would be grave indeed. There is a minimum wage in place already, but some people still earn more than this amount. Why would employers pay workers more than they lawfully need to? Are they mad? The answer is simple: they have no other choice. The employee sells his work to the highest bidder. The employer acts in the opposite manner. He wants to hire the best possible worker for as low a price as possible. If you have a unique set of skills, one that will earn big profits to the company that will hire you, then potential employers will want to offer you more money or other benefits to get you to work for them instead of their competitors. However, if the job doesn't require high qualifications, then there will be more such workers available on the market. Thus, if these workers want the job, they will be forced to agree to a lower wage. The labor market is guided by the law of supply and demand. The more expensive something gets, the lower the demand for it will be. By raising labor costs and making employment more expensive, the government lowers the demand for labor. But at first, this won't impact those who already earn more than the minimum wage. Because the work of the least qualified employees is worth less than the minimum wage, they will suffer the most, even though they were supposed to be protected by the government from destitution. Who are these employees? They are mainly young people fresh out of school, and they don't have yet any practical skills nor professional experience. These people would be often willing to work for less money because they need it for a date or for an evening meeting with friends, while having no family nor house to maintain. This first and simplest step in their future careers is best suited for them at the time. They badly need to get the first experience, credibility and self-discipline, as these things are key conditions needed for their careers. If these conditions are met, then the next employer will feel secured that as employees, these young people can endure a year or two of work and that they are probably punctual because nobody fired them before. If such young prospective employees can show positive references from their previous jobs, then it means that they were able to handle their responsibilities well, and they probably are prepared to handle more demanding tasks. This entry-level job is not their last, and it doesn't need to sustain their families. It's only a means to an end. The time spent at the entry-level job should be used to acquire the skills necessary to go up on the career ladder. All the government does by setting the minimum wage is to destroy the lowest rank on this ladder. This means that it will be harder for people starting their careers to put the foot in the door, trying to make their entrance to the job market. If someone's work is worth $5 an hour, then despite the minimum wage law, nobody will pay him $6 per hour nor more. In effect, such a person will become unemployable. Which one is better? No income at all, or lower income awarded with job experience? In such a situation, an unemployed person has to gain additional education or get unpaid on-the-job training. The consequence is overabundance of university graduates in regard to market needs. But what happens when an employer has no other choice but to raise wage to an enforced minimum, for example because he needs employees for a production department in his company? He will either fire some of them while dumping additional tasks on the rest of his staff, or he will shift the additional cost to the customer to be able to satisfy his company's goals, such as its business objectives and expected rate of return on investment. And since he still has to pay more, then he will choose to fire a least qualified person and employ someone who has better qualifications. This new employee will be then required to perform tasks below his competence level. After all, the employer wants to have the most qualified people he can get. The effects of minimum wage are all around us. Many products or services are getting more expensive, the requirements for entry-level jobs are getting higher and higher, and unemployment among young people is high. Why is the government making it so? Usually such changes are prompted by labor unions. It seems that the
Okay, let me pause it there. I see where someone is asking or someone is commenting, and I did expect this comment. It is the comment that this video does not take into consideration the context of Jamaica. What is that consideration? What is the context of Jamaica? How unique is Jamaica from any other country in terms of our economy? Jamaica's economy, Jamaica, like every other country, has human beings, capital, which includes land and the opportunity to do business of different sorts, for example, tourism, carpentry, electronics, software development. We can do anything we want here in Jamaica. Just like they did in Singapore. In Singapore, they didn't have anything. In fact, they have less than Jamaica, and they are much richer than Jamaica. So, why do we want to quickly say everything we see, Jamaica is different? Jamaica is no different than any other country. Yes, every country has unique characteristics. Like, if one country has oil, fine, that's their advantage. They have oil. Another country may have particular minerals. Okay, they have that particular mineral. But all the countries have some basic elements in common. Number one, human being. Number two, a system of governance. And number three, a opportunity for them to produce a product and sell to the rest of the world. Many products, not just one, right? So why is Jamaica so uniquely different from any other country? Well, Jamaica gets to choose its system of governance. And whatever system of governance Jamaica chooses, that system of governance, the laws that they make, the regulations that they put into effect, will determine how productive or unproductive the people will be. It will determine how much liberty, how much incentives are created for people to produce to their maximum capacity. So the real difference between any country is the system of governance it has and how that system impacts the people. So let's say you were born in the United States of America. You're going to benefit from the system of governance it has, or you're going to suffer because of the system of governance it has, right? So the real issue here is not to say Jamaica is different from others, but to say how have we managed ourselves? What is impeding us from achieving our full potential? And the real thing that's impeding us is our system of governance. So this video is perfectly adapted to Jamaica. It is telling you what happens when a government messes with the labor market, when a government plants a mindset in the people, when a government creates regulations that gives advantages to some people and takes away opportunities from others, when a government creates barriers to entry in any particular industry, and so on. So Jamaica is suffering from that. So the video we're watching is perfectly on target. It's talking about the basic laws of economics, the laws of demand and supply. So let me put it this way. If you are a person that's trying to sell something, you want to get the highest possible price for it. That's almost everybody. You might have a few of us that are really strange, but most of us will want to get the highest price for whatever we're trying to sell. When we're trying to buy something, most of us will want to get the lowest possible price for that thing when we're buying it. We want the best quality at the lowest possible price. So that is normal. The same thing happens in the labor market in any country. The employer wants to get the best quality employee for the lowest possible price, right? Every employer wants that. And every employee wants the highest possible pay for the best possible job. Yeah? So the two parties will not reach an agreement unless they're satisfied with the terms. Now, many of us are so very fearful of employers exploiting employees. But who are employers? In a normal economy, you and I are both employers and employees. You and I, depending on where you are, you might hire somebody to cut your lawn. You might hire somebody to wash your clothes. You might hire somebody to care for your home. You may hire somebody to care for your child. So you're an employer. Or you might be an employee as well, because you go to somebody else and you offer your skills as a janitor, as an accountant, as an engineer, as a lawyer, as a doctor, as a nurse, as a police, as a laborer. What is a laborer? A laborer is somebody who has very limited skills, and what he has to offer is his or her muscles to do a job which does not require a large degree of technical requirements. Now, in an economy like Jamaica, what we have is an oversupply of laborers. Why? Because our government has failed. So the government has failed. The government has an education system. It controls that education system. It dictates that education system. It takes away your money from you and then say, this is the school that you are to go to. And if you want to send your kid to a private school, you have to find more money on top of what we've already taken from you, because you're going to have to find that money to pay. So the government controls your education for the most part. So if we have an oversupply of low skilled adults, not children now, not teenagers, not low skilled adults, that is because our government, our system of governance has led us down a path where the vast majority of us are low skilled. The vast majority of us cannot command a higher income. Now, is the solution to that to set a minimum wage, or is the solution to that to change your system so that you produce more citizens who are technically competent to be value added persons, so you don't have a large number of Jamaicans competing for low skilled jobs? Yeah. So what we have in Jamaica is a system that has produced a large number of low-skilled individuals seeking work. Now, based on the laws of economics, this is not rocket science. Based on the law of economics, if you have a lot of persons having very little skill seeking the same jobs, then the price of those jobs are going to be low, because the employer has a lot of persons to choose from. So there's no need for them to pay a very high price, because there's a whole lot of those available workers to choose from. Now, when the government sets a minimum price for that, what the government does is to ensure that the employer hires a smaller number of those people, because hiring more of those people wouldn't make any sense. You'll just be hiring people for the sake of hiring people. You'll just have them around. So what the employer does, the employer now, because the government has set an artificial price and said this is the artificial minimum, the employer escapes the requirement of negotiating wages, and for the most part gets to start at an artificial price. So a lot of employees who could have been getting a higher wage are now stuck in this low wage, because that's the price that is set by the government, which is artificial. And it gives the big business the opportunity to pick the best of the workers and pay them a smaller price and threaten them indirectly that if you don't behave yourself and take this lower wage price, we will just go and pick somebody else in this large pool of workers that are desperately looking for work. Now, suppose there wasn't a minimum wage, what would have happened? Well, this is what would have happened if there wasn't a minimum wage. The employee would not be thinking minimum wage, first of all. So the minimum wage mindset would not be there. The employer would not have an artificial price to start with to be able to manipulate the employees into working for less than their worth. Those who could get more, because not everybody can get more, but those who could get more, they have been manipulated now by the government putting this thing in place into accepting a lower wage because that is the general going rate in the market. So it actually suppresses wages by having this artificial price established by government. Okay? Now, even if they increase that price from time to time, they are colluding with big business, directly or indirectly, to make sure that this situation continues to exist. So those who do have a job, yes, they have a job, but the price will never be substantially high in relation to their actual productivity because they're being pulled down by the artificial price and the large number of persons looking for work who are unskilled. This also kills small business. How does it kill small businesses? A small business that is just starting up and is just trying to move up the ladder to become a big business, they must hire at this artificial price. Now, you might say, but that's a low price, it doesn't matter. In fact, I've seen somebody written a post to say that if a business cannot pay minimum wage, it has no business to be in business. That is a very, very foolish statement because what it implies is that if a person is willing to work for whatever price it is in order to create a new product and create a new big business, that should not happen because it is too low by their standard. Now, who is the best person to set the standard for a person's wage? It's that person, not the government. The government has no say in what price you should ask, but what they have done by creating minimum wage laws is they set a price that eliminates you from the market if you cannot compete at a higher price. So let's look at what that has done to Jamaica. This is incredible. Watch carefully what it has done. Many young people leave high school. Back in the day, sometime 15 years old, 16 years old. Right? They come out into the world of work, 15, 16 years old. The government says the minimum wage should be this. An employer looks at them. There's no way I am going to take the risk of hiring that child and paying them the price that the government says. Now remember, it's a child we're talking about. Minimum wage, or let me rephrase that, a low wage is not for an adult with children and family. An adult with children and family should be somebody earning more, not because they should just get more, but because they have developed the skills and competences that allow them to be productive, to earn more. Yeah. So let's go back to this low wage thing. So the low wages that you have in a society should really be for a child, a 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old who is just trying to get their first job. They're going to learn how to take instructions. They're going to learn how to be a part of a team. They're going to learn how to follow a schedule. They're going to learn how to deal with customers. They're going to learn how to make a product. They're going to learn how to repair a problem. They're going to learn how to engage in the world of work. And so they're going to learn. Now, in Jamaica, the, Jamaica is playing a dangerous game, and it has done this for years. The game it has played is a game where they're going to set an artificial price that eliminates the massive amount of low skilled workers here so they will never get a job. Now, this is serious. So let's say you leave school at 15, 16, 17, or 18. But because of the so called minimum wage or so called livable wage, you are never hired. Your minimum wage, therefore, is zero. That's your minimum wage. The government can't change that because the government can't force somebody to hire you. So it plants a seed in your mind that says you must not work for less than 7,000 a week. You must not work for less. And worse than that, if anybody hires you for less, they have committed a crime and must be locked up. They must go to jail. So therefore, every employer that is aware of the law and is careful about the law will avoid ever employing you. So you came out of school 15, 16, 17, 18, you came out, you never, ever, ever got a job when you were 17 or 18. Remember, you don't have the skill. You left school, you failed almost all your subjects, you need help. You're not going anywhere else. You're done. So here you are now, year one, let's say you're 17, year one, no job. You're home bouncing about, just existing. Your parents are paying the bills if you have parents. You're just living, just existing around. Year two, the same thing. Year three, the same thing. Year four, the same thing. So if you were 17, you're now 21. You have had 4 years of unemployment, never employed by anyone at all, ever. So you have no conception of working in a really structured environment where you have to plan, organize, and think and work with a team, learn how to deal with customers, learn how to have good manners, how to give good customer service, learn how to follow a process or procedure that's well developed in a company. No experience. You're now 21. 4 more years pass. You're now 25. Still no experience. Mind you, whatever you learned in school now is completely gone. Almost all the basic math you learned, the basic English skills you learned, the basic social studies, the basic science knowledge that you may have picked up a little bit. Remember, you failed, you know. Now, remember, 70% of our graduates from high school are in that category. Even if they have now changed the rules and changed the standard in education so that more children can now fictitiously pass more subjects, it doesn't change the fact of what I'm talking about. It doesn't change the fact that now you have this 17-year-old, 5 years later, 8 years later, having no experience at all. Where is that person going? Right now, you see them on the street. You see those boys and girls. Well, the girls, many of them will, by that 8 year stretch, will have 4 children. They can't do math. They've forgotten the little that they learned, it's forgotten. They have no employable skills because they were never employed. So they have not developed any employment skills at all in the workplace because nobody has ever employed them. Yeah. And so they now have 4 children. They can hardly read. They can hardly write. They can't do proper analysis. They can't do proper reasoning. They can't do proper logic. They can't do proper mathematics. That's why you see them cussing every day in the tenement yard and so on. That's why you see them fighting every day. And then you see them do some crazy things, you know. So now what are they doing? They just kind of exist. Some drift into prostitution, some drift into gangs, some drift into all manner of things, trying now to exist in a society that has blocked them out with one simple law, the minimum wage law. It's amazing because we're thinking, all of us are thinking just about, no, you need a minimum to protect these poor persons. You need a minimum to protect them. What does the minimum do? The minimum doesn't protect them. The minimum eliminates them from the employment market. It doesn't protect them. It eliminates them. And it leaves them years upon years upon years upon years without gaining any skills on the job. Now, let's assume we didn't have a minimum wage law. Many employers, and when I say employers, I'm talking many persons, even a person who just have a small shop, a person with a small bicycle shop, one man repairing bicycles every day, just him. Him can't employ nobody else because the minimum wage for him, even though it's small, it's too high. If it wasn't there, he might have employed a 16-year-old, a 17-year-old. That 17-year-old would have come to work every day. What would happen to him? He never understood math very well, or physics very well, or language very well, or anything very well. But now he's working in this bicycle repair shop. What would have happened to him? Look what would happen. He gets up every morning, leaves his parents' home. He's not on the corner sitting down on the fence. He goes to Mr. Sigri's bike shop. He's not, he wasn't messed up by government telling him that even though he has no skills, he should be getting $7,000 a week. That's not in his mind. It's not even a part of his thinking. He has no idea of any minimum. All he knows is, boy, I'm out of school and I'm not nothing right now. And, when I love to do something. And so he goes to Mr. Sigri. He gets a job with Mr. Sigri at whatever price they can agree on. You might not like the price because you have your big job and you now have a lot of morals and a lot of highfalutin thinking, but he knows better. He goes and he gets this job from Mr. Sigri, and he is getting, let's say he's getting $3,000 a week. Horrible, terrible, 3,000. But remember, he's living at home with his parents. He's not a father yet. He doesn't have 3 children to care for yet. He doesn't have a wife to feed yet. So he goes to Mr. Sigri at 17 years old, 16 years old, 18 years old. And he goes there and he's learning to repair bikes, something he never learned in school. He learns how to put on the wheel. He learns how to assemble the chain. He learns how to fix the brakes. He learns how to fix the pedal. He learns how to grease it properly. He learns how to align it properly. He learns the mechanics of using tools. For the first time in his entire life, he's learning practically how to do things. His mind starts to open up. His understanding starts to expand. He watches Mr. Sigri, who, let's say Mr. Sigri is 50 years old, and this little fellow is 17. He watches Mr. Sigri, how he deals with the customer when they comes in. He eventually started to help Mr. Sigri to record the sales, go do the bank lodgement or deposit. He learns to clean the shop. He learns to put back tools in their right places. He learns how to go and order parts. He learns to go pick up parts. Yeah, 17, making only half the minimum wage or less than half the minimum wage. After 1 year, he has learned a lot. After 2 years, he has learned a lot more. After 3 years, guess what? Mr. Segrino said, I can't afford to lose him. I can't continue to pay him 3,000 a week because if we hire another young person now, may I start from zero. Since I've hired him, what has happened? My business is getting better because now I have the help. I can take in twice as much of the work I used to take in before, and so on. So he bumps him up from $3,000 a week, and he's now getting 6,000 a week or 8,000 a week, and so on. And then he takes on another apprentice and another apprentice. And his bike shop moved from one little box in a corner, in a one little board thing. He was able now to rent a bigger space and, you know, get more parts and have it more organized, put in a point of sale system. And his staff now has grown from one little boy at 17 to now 5 persons in addition to himself. And he has now created a bigger business. He's now assembling more bikes than ever, and he's beginning to ship some of those bikes to Trinidad and Barbados. You see what I'm talking about? Now, because of government policy, that young man would never have been hired. Year 1, unemployed. Year 2, unemployed. Year 3, unemployed. You can imagine the losses to our country. And we're seeing it right now. We're seeing right now the massive losses because of all those young people who were never employed because of a simple solitary law that we all think is so beautiful and good because the intention of the law sounds good, but the impact of the law is very destructive. It has stripped thousands and thousands of Jamaicans of the basic skills they should have gotten after leaving school without being properly educated because their government failed them by having poor schools, poor teachers, poor equipment in those schools while they're thieving the people and money and putting out every day into our society uneducated, unequipped, incompetent students and then telling them that they must demand a particular artificial wage. And then telling those who would employ them, that they're criminals if they were to employ them and pay them any less. So yes, now they are that same little boy. Let's say, he was born in Jamaica with those minimum wage laws, so he was never hired. So he never learned what I talked about a while ago. Never learned any of it. So now he's 25, and then breed two girls. So him have two youth them now. Two youth, yeah? Him have one youth up there, so, and one youth down there, and two baby mothers. Yeah? Another year pass, him have two more youth and two different more baby mothers. And him a hustle, and him say him a hustle. Why him a hustle? Much of the hustle is finding ways to kind of get things done as shady as possible, to get a little money and feed himself here and there and here and there, and hide from this baby mother and hide from that baby mother. What kind of family now does that create? What will become of those four youth and those four baby mothers who are in similar situation like him? Because they left school without the competencies and they were locked out of the economy because of a bad law that sounds good. And then you have lovely politicians who now come and tell you, yeah, I am for this law and I want to increase it and make it better and whatever. While all they're doing every single solitary year is digging our grave deeper and deeper and deeper until now we have the kind of crime problem that we have. Until now, we have the kind of environment where the politicians were able to now go and get them to do their misdeeds. If our children had opportunities better than getting a gun from a politician to go set up a gang and create a garrison, they would have pursued them. But our own political leaders created a factory to put out low product citizens and to keep them that way. Then to fool them up with laws that sound good but are actually designed to undermine us. And it has worked. Yeah, it has worked. And then we know the few of us who escape it can come and talk big. We can come and talk about, oh, them just a breed up so and have so many, babies and whatever. And we are not paying attention to what is driving this. What is creating all of these baby mothers, these women with these young girls with 4 and 5 children? You think it's because them just dumb and stupid? No, it's not because them just dumb and stupid. They were made dumb and stupid by their own government, by government policy, by the system of governance. It creates the outcome that you see. So the Jamaica that you see today is the very product of the problem that I'm describing. And minimum wage is just one of those laws. It is a big one and it has tremendous impact. Now I want you to see the rest of this video because you're going to see a very important part now about the trade unions and how this minimum wage thing fit into their narrative and how it works for them. So I want you to pay attention to this as well. Please watch.
Their goal is not for the workers to earn more, but to protect union changes are prompted by labor unions. It seems that their goal is not for the workers to earn more, but to protect union members who are stuck on the second rank of the career ladder from a new generation that could do the same job cheaper. The government is satisfied with this arrangement as it now collects more taxes from the higher wages it just enforced. What else should be done to solve the problem of low wages? The answer is simple. Let the free market operate. Remove the burden of taxes and other levies on work. Do not interfere with the freedom of contract. Stop impeding formation of new companies to allow more competition between employers for the employees. And last but not least, let interest rates freely adjust to market conditions so that people would again save and invest. One should also convince other people that the amount of their earnings depends on their own actions and that the government won't do their work instead of them. A higher value for the employer equals higher earnings. There is no getting around the fact. For more, visit econclips.com. If you don't want to miss our next video, subscribe to our YouTube channel and like our Facebook page. If you like our project, please support.
Yeah, so There you have it, and I hope you were able to understand much of that. Um, Economics is a very, very easy to understand subject if you have not been messed up by the misinformation that you have been fed over the years. The minimum wage sounds good, but is quite deceptive and quite tricky. You might be surprised to know that the first time the minimum wage was used was really as a means of eliminating blacks from the economy in South Africa. Yeah? It was purposefully designed to eliminate blacks. And how did that work? Well, in an economy without the minimum wage, an economy with blacks and whites and where there are racism and all that kind of stuff, without the laws, the minimum wage laws, what would happen is the blacks who were being discriminated against, they were able to offer their services for less and could prove themselves that they're not just willing to work for less, but they're actually probably even more competent and can do a better job than their white counterparts. So they were providing severe competition, and that's market, right? In markets, they have competition. So the blacks were providing severe competition in the in the South African economy, and so the white overlords introduced minimum wage in order to say no white company could pay a wage below this level. What that did now was to ensure that the price of hiring a a black man would have been disadvantageous to the white company, and so they used that to eliminate the black, or well, they tried to eliminate the blacks from the market with it. I want to share with you a little clip from what's his name, Walter Williams, that great economist that I was telling you about, and listen to how he explains the minimum wage and how it was used as a tool to undermine black people in South America and in the United States of America. And as I've explained to you, it really worked very well to create a lot of poverty here in Jamaica. But before I go to Walter, let me see if I can look at some of the comments here. I see Deborah Messam. She has been trolling me for some time, not just here but on other platforms. But I'm not afraid of his or her comment. I think somebody here says, I support the UIC because I want them to disrupt the system. However, I'm in complete disagreement with them about this. So that's Khalifa Kelly. He is completely in disagreement with the UIC because of our policy on minimum wage. Um, Jahim says, prior to minimum wage employment, workers were exploited. So let's talk about exploitation. How were workers exploited back in the days of, when we had the colonial masters here, and you had poor working conditions and horrible wages, low wages, and they worked the poor black people for nothing. So it was almost like slavery. The slaves were now free to choose their masters, but they were not really free in reality. So we are fed this lie about exploitation attached to wages. No, the exploitation was in the colonial system. The colonial system that deprived the black man, that deprived us of our property rights, that deprived us of having a free and fair economy. If they did not control the capital and control our land and control our government, we, the people, would have no exploitation because we would have been able to choose what to do with our time and our efforts and not be in an economy that was locked up and restricted by the overlords, the colonial masters. Yeah? So you see that? So what they call exploitation is actually a lie. It's not exploitation as in this big bad employer exploiting these poor um, Africans. Yeah, what it was colonialism, where the colonial masters controlled the economy, controlled the education system, controlled the healthcare system, used regulations to exclude people from their economy, and by virtue of that, we're able now to suppress wages because the poor black man and woman did not have many options because they were blocked in by their colonial masters. Now, here's the funny thing, that's the same situation we have today, except that the colonial masters are behind the scenes and now they put a few of us in charge. Yeah? By creating a fake democracy, funding two colonial political parties, and create the facade of freedom while the same master slave economic structure still exists. So they've tricked you now into thinking that it's an employer is going to exploit you. No employer can exploit you in a truly free and fair economy. None whatsoever. If Jamaica was freed up, so you didn't have these 63 puppets in parliaments carrying out the initiatives of the private sector organization of Jamaica and their foreign masters by restricting our economy and regulating away our freedoms and manipulating our education and getting us to create a dependency nation with, with poorly educated people, we would have freely and effectively built a number of businesses, a number of enterprises, and every one of us would have been free to choose what we want to do with our lives and not be hoping and begging for government to set a minimum wage for us. Instead, we would all be setting our own wages, creating our own products, mastering our own skills, and building our own lives, and by extension, building our economy. So we have been duped, we have been tricked, and we're still in slavery, we're still in colonialism, but in a nicer looking form that still keeps the majority poor and dependent and weak, while a few of us who agrees to become the agents of our colonial masters get to use that system to rape the rest of us, rob us of our wealth, while telling us that they love and care for the poor. Yeah? So that's what's going on. So don't be fooled by the idea no employer can exploit an employee, none whatsoever, in a truly free and fair economy. For example, right now, many young persons would like to be able to start their own businesses and do so successfully. But there are many barriers created by their own government. Yeah? There are import barriers. You can't import the things you need quickly and efficiently at the prices that the prevailing international market has. You have artificial price increases created by your government to prevent you. They have regulations and laws that says for you to get into this space, you need to have gone through this channel, and if you don't go through that channel that they control, then you can't get into this space. So again, they block you. They have politicians in positions to say we will give permission for this or that, which then blocks you. They make us dependent, where every time we're trying to do something, everybody they need to go to government to go get permission to do something. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So this is the kind of environment. That's the exploitation. It's not employers who are exploiting you. It's your very own government that's exploiting you. Your very government is exploiting you. They're the problem. Now, of course, you're saying to yourself, so if they're exploiting me, why aren't they doing me a good deal by setting a minimum wage? That's the point. They are, in fact, using the laws, like even a minimum wage law, to trick you. Now, Singapore has no minimum wage law. They've never had a minimum wage law, and yet still they earn more than all the rest of us. What's the difference between us and Singapore? Well, Singapore, their people are highly educated because their government made sure that they invested in quality education for all of their citizens. Singapore, the people there are practically all homeowners. They have a 92% home ownership rate. So the government ensured that their people are property owners. Now that's what the UIC wants to do. We want to shift the whole dynamics. Let's get our Jamaican people to be property owners. Let's get our human capital up to par. And let's stop teaching our people to have this minimum mindset, this poverty mindset, looking for some kind of handout, looking for some kind of special favors, looking for some kind of special arrangement. Let's stop having special arrangements and start learning to be productive, learning to be self reliant, learning to understand the laws of economics, and stop expecting some tooth fairy or messiah to come and save us. We have to get into the habit of being productive people who grow based on merit, not based on politicians doing some kind of trickery for us to get ahead. Let us get to the business of being productive, hardworking citizens. We're messing up the minds of our children. Right now, you can hardly find a young person out there to work. Them don't want no work. Yeah? Them don't want no work because their minds have been messed up. Their education system has messed them up. The government has messed them up. So we have to stop it. Let us focus on earning our maximum wage, earning our maximum potential. Let's remove the artificial barriers of government that is impacting and impeding our lives negatively. Yeah. Let us focus on building an education system that produces quality graduates. Let's make sure that when a person has finished, what, how many years? You spend, what, how many years at basic school? Age 6? No, 3 years old. I remember I started basic school at 3. So 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, my gosh. 6 years old, 3 years. Grade 1. 1 to, what is it? Grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then grade 7, you go on to high school, another 5 years in high school. And when you finish, you can't read. When you finish, you can't write. When you finish, you can't spell. No, I'm bad for that. I can't spell very well. You can't spell. When you finish, you can't analyze. You can't reason. Yeah, you can't think. You want a government that is going to come now and say, this is what you should earn. A man come to work for you and you say, how much you charge for this? 3,000 a day wages, you know. How you come to 3,000? What is the price that you set? How do you value yourself? We need to get rid of this thinking. Yeah. Let me just say this again. No, no, no. The government provide housing in Singapore. Singaporeans are paid much less than their most countries. I don't know which data you're reading from, my good friend, but Singapore is one of the richest countries in the world. They have an average GDP per capita of about $63,000 per person, and they have to be hiring outside help, to keep their country clean because most of their citizens are, high wage earners. Yeah, yeah. I see Janet is saying it would be nice if parents actually start reading to their kids. Janet, the parents can't read to their kids. The parents can't read. We don't understand what's going on here. The parents can't read. We're asking parents to take care of their kids. Most of our parents in Jamaica were children when they got pregnant. Some of them raped by their neighbors, another young man in the community, right? Or by an adult, a stepfather, and all of that. Many of the young girls got pregnant very early, 16, 17, 18. Yeah. They're not ready to be parents. Them don't know anything. Yeah. So many parents cannot teach their children to read. They can't read to their children. They can't help their children with their math homework. They don't understand it. They don't understand algebra. They don't understand geometry. They don't calculus, forget that. They don't understand basic arithmetic. They don't understand reasoning and logic. They don't understand inductive reasoning or deductive reasoning. They don't understand how to deconstruct a paragraph and explain to you what is the subject of the sentence. Yeah? So we have to understand what is going on here in Jamaica. We have a system that is skilled at producing unskilled citizens. And when I talk about skills, I mean basic skills. If you go into any store right now and buy a product, it takes forever to cash out. The amount of steps and process they have to go through to cash you out, you spend more time waiting to be cashed out than the time you took to go and pick up the product. Yeah? Why is this? Why is our country so highly inefficient and highly ineffective? And every single year, our dollar is getting less and less valuable. It's because our people are not very productive. And why are people not productive? It's not because they lack the ability to be productive. It's because of our governance. It's because of our government. Take up the same unproductive person from here and move them to another country, and they're far more productive in another country than they are here. Think about that. Yeah? Our system is one that encourages poor production, poor customer service, ineffectiveness in every step of the process. And it's time for us to start focusing on fixing the problem and stop being tricked by politicians about increasing minimum wage. Yes, they can increase minimum wage by 30% tomorrow. All it will do, and I'll tell you straight up, the 30% increase is going to mean job losses. It's going to kill a number of small businesses. So the PSOJ, in recommending a 30% increase in the minimum wage, they know very well the impact of that because they do want to kill off small businesses. They want to have a large pool of Jamaicans begging for jobs from the big business so that they can keep wages low, real wages. Because the more of us they have looking for work from them, is the lower the wage they have to pay because the competition is stiff. Yeah? Yeah, minimum wage kills jobs. Yes, Khalifa, you don't have to agree. It's just a fact. Yeah, it's very simple, people. All of us are not at the same level. Yeah, all of us are not at the same level. So you can't set a price for wages. You can't set a price for wages for everybody. Yeah. So big business wants to use the minimum wage to kill off more small businesses because the higher the minimum wage, the less likely a very small business can afford to hire anyone. They're barely breaking even as it is, so they will simply have to lay off. Now, those who can will invest in technology, right? So they will use equipment to reduce the need to rely on labor, especially because labor comes with a lot of headache. Many of they have many problems because of the social disorder we have in Jamaica. So they come to work with many problems. Many times they come with all kinds of headaches and personal problems that makes them inefficient and unproductive on the job. And as a result of that, as you pressure businesses, they will move to automation and move to using technology and equipment to reduce their dependence on labor. Someone says, Mr. President, I thought they had gotten rid of you. No, man, I'm back. I'm here. They tried very hard, but I'm still here. We just had our elections on Saturday, so I was also busy dealing with our internal affairs in the UIC, where I was reelected as president on Saturday, along with our vice president and chairman and general secretary and treasury secretary. But back to the topic. This is a trick. So when they raise the minimum wage, and don't get me wrong, I am not against you getting a higher wage. That's not the issue. What you have to understand is that it's not going to help you. Still, Yes, it will make you feel better to hear that you have gotten a 30% increase, but you're not going to stop seeing a decline in your purchasing power. So if you get 30% increase today, by next year, that 30% will be gone fully, completely. You'll be, instead of you being plus 30, you're going to be minus 10 or 20 by next year. So this is not going to fix any problem. It's nice to hear, it will sound nice, it will feel nice, but it's not going to fix the problem. And you might say to yourself, yes, but at least I'm going to get 30% more now. Yes, you will. That is true. You're going to get 30% more today. And for a short while, you will feel as if you have gotten ahead. How many times have they increased minimum wage? Yeah. Just think of where we're coming from, where, a bread was for $1, and now a bread is for almost $200. Yeah. 250 depending, right? $1 for bread, now it's 250. So if you were to just think about it, you'll realize the solution is not minimum wage. The solution is to understand economics and to understand why it is every year you're losing purchasing power. Why is it that your own government has set a target, yeah, an inflation target as to how much of your earnings they're going to steal every year, right? Our government and many governments across the world have inflation targets. And inflation is a reduction in your purchasing power. And they have a plan that they even communicate to you. And the plan is that they are going to reduce your purchasing power every year by 4 to 6%. Now, that's fake as well because in reality, they do more. Like right now, your purchasing power is dropping by 10, 20, 30% every year, depending on the product you're talking about. Yeah. Your light bill is going up, your water bill is going up, food bill, forget about that. Right now, your food bill is through the roof. Minimum wage will not fix that. You don't want minimum wage. You do not want a 30% increase in minimum wage. What you want is an opportunity to earn your maximum potential by matching your productivity to your wages. But instead, they give you a little, oh, bread is almost 500. My goodness. Thank you, Nuff, for sharing that. I need to update my knowledge on bread price. So, but think about it, right? You're not going to be helped by this 30%. So that is not the solution. And it's a good idea for you to take the time to just remove from your mind the cloud that they have put on you. Just say, Managa take this foolishness no more. I'm not going to subscribe to their trickeries. Yeah. So forget about minimum wage. I don't want to talk about the minimum wage. Say that to the government. I don't want to hear about your minimum wage increase. I want the opportunity to earn my maximum potential. So get rid of that idea about minimum wage. In fact, minimum wage is killing our children. Yeah. The many children that are coming out of school that are messed up by the school system and then they cannot get a basic job. I can assure you, any well thinking parent right now who has a 17-year-old at home would be very happy if that 17-year-old was getting up every morning since they're not going to university. And even if they're going to university, work part time. I worked part time. When I was going to high school, I had a job. I was working at a grocery store, and I went to work every weekend. I work on Saturdays and Sunday at a grocery store, um, you know, with Miss Peggy and Mr. Glenville. Every Sunday, Saturday and Sunday, I would go there and work. And what was I doing? I was and I work during the week, sometimes depending on if I have some space, I would go there after school, so on a Wednesday or so, and I would serve customers, 2 pound of rice, 2 pound of flour, half a bread, tin of sardine mackerel, and chicken back, cut it up and whatever. and make change, collect the money, make the change for them, stock the shelves, sell the horse food and the work which was close to came on the spot, and the pig food and in the big boxes, the big bags, help to offload the trucks, you know, all that. And I was a young man. You're talking about back in the days there, 13, 14, 15, 16. And I worked with Miss Peggy and Mr. Glenville. Yeah. And it was a blessing. No, I got money, so I had money as a young man. I had money I could spend. I was taking care of a wife and family, so I didn't know what I was earning because I at the time I wasn't aware of minimum wage. I wasn't thinking along that line. Thank God, because maybe I would have told them, "Me not work for them the money then," and I would only be killing myself. You know. So instead, I was not thinking. I was just happy to be able to find somebody who was willing to employ me and willing to pay me whatever it was. And I could recall that I always had money as a young man. I could take my friends to Kentucky. I could buy a gift from my girlfriend. I bought a lot of books. So I would buy, all because my father wasn't so keen on paying for much of the things for me. So I had money. I could buy all my textbooks and I could buy other books that I was interested in because I love to read. And so I'd buy all of these, books and stuff. And my room was full of books from of all description. And then I would also go to work with my father sometimes because he was an electrician. And so when he's working on, certain buildings, if I get a chance and he allowed me, I would go to work, chopping the wall, putting in the conduits, drawing the wire, connecting the switches, putting in the light bulbs, mixing cement, all of these things. Now, if the minimum wage laws were stringent back then, and the misinformation and wrong form of thinking was fully ingrained back then, um, those employers probably wouldn't have employed me, for one, because I would be a risk to them. And two, I would not have gotten a chance to learn those fundamental skills that would prove to be so empowering as I went through, my life. By the time I was 23, I was already a small business owner and making some really good, decent money. I remember my first major business. I was able to get a loan from, back then it was called Mutual Bank, and I was able to borrow $30,000 from Mutual Bank. This was back in 1990, 1991 or so. Yeah, 91, 92. Borrow $30,000. A lot of money then, I mean, for a young man, normally no young man my age gets to borrow $30,000 from any bank. And I paid it off, and then I got another loan of $30,000. Again, one of the first in my community in Meadowvale, where I was living at the time. I was the only one who had a computer, a major computer with the latest software. I think it was Harvard Graphics and Lotus and all those things. And my advantage came from having been industrious, as a young man, being very industrious in those early years. But if I was in a system that locked me out of the economy because I was too young and low in productivity and was priced out of the market by the minimum wage laws, then I wouldn't learn those early skills, which then made it possible for me to rise up the ladder. And so by the time now that I have a wife and children, I have significantly developed skills that allowed me to earn an income that I can take care of my wife and our first daughter, and then have two more children and continue to grow. But if I had fake laws impeding me, and if those people didn't take a chance on me and hire me and help me to build, myself, my character, my understanding, then game over. But right now, for many, many young people in Jamaica, it's game over. they will never get a job. Never, you know. And so we have a system that is producing criminals. It's turning young people into criminals, turning them into scammers, turning them into um, gangsters, prostitution, all kind of things. Yeah. Paul Dillon says, Mr. Patterson, if you win seats in the local elections, how would the UIC play a part in government? Well, Paul, if we win seats in the local government election, we will be um, we will be effecting at the local level changes that we can, whether it has to do with road, water, electricity, community development. Yeah, will be impacting all of those areas. Julian says, YouTube title, Most Dangerous Way to School. These are kids 5 years old. Okay, not too sure. Um, I can't wait to hear your interview on Best FM with host Jerry Smalls, says Mr. Info. I know Jerry. I have been on a few interviews with him many years ago in the 2016 era. So yeah, I look forward to having a chat with Jerry again. It's been a while. Sheldon McGann says both JLP and VNP destroy the economy of this country. Time to make and give a true third party a chance. Um, uh, Mr. Patterson, who continue to show Jamaicans we really need good leadership to manage the affairs of Jamaica. Yeah, thank you, Sheldon. Jamaica needs good leadership. We need a good system. Um, you know, I worry sometimes because I know that we have been so miseducated, and it's a hell of a battle to bring us to the education level that politicians don't trick us so easily, anymore. Politics has become a popularity game. It's a popularity sport. So if people can say nice things, if they look pretty. So for example, some of us, we make our voting decisions based on how pretty the person look. So if she look like a movie star, if she looks like a fashion model, then we get all excited, and we don't pay attention now to the details. We don't pay attention to the facts. So for example, if you're a well-thinking Jamaican, you should say to yourself, it doesn't matter what anyone from the two major parties tell me now. I know I trust them. I can't trust them because they've had 78 years and they haven't done it. So why are they going to do it now? Yeah, they're going to have new leaders now and young leaders or this leader, that leader. As you have seen with the present prime minister, it doesn't matter if they were born after 62 or before 62. It's still the same. It's in their DNA. So you can't trust them. And something you have to be able to look past the flash and the trickery and see when you have a serious leader available to help us make some good changes. What are my thoughts on HEART, the HEART program? All of these things, whether it's HEART or Jamal or you name it, at the end of the day, just look at Jamaica. I judge everything by the outcome, not by the intentions. So somebody says, Patterson, what makes you better than them? I can't see the rest of your comment, but I understand where you're going. What makes me better than the old school politicians, the two major colonial parties? I think instead of saying better, look at differences. Yeah, the differences. Um, Almost all of the young politicians chose to join what has failed Jamaica. They all chose to join what failed and what is failing. I chose to build something new, to offer you something new, to offer you something that's going to fix the real problems. So I focus on solving real problems, not on politics. So I'm not a politician. I'm not here to mesmerize you. I'm not here to make you say, oh, he's so flashy or dashy. That's not the point. I am more concerned about fixing the problems. I spend my time studying the problem and understanding the fixes to those problems. Yeah. Um, so I that's what makes me different from the others. I'm a straight talker. I'll tell you the things that are very difficult to talk about, like minimum wage. None of the other politicians can come and tell you what I'm talking about minimum wage because they know that you have been tricked and fooled into believing it, and so they're just going to play it on you. They're not going to make any effort to try to bring you up to speed and to make you understand. You know, so my goal is to make you understand, to help you to understand the real issues, the real problem, and to offer you a real solution. And if you are interested in that, then we can move forward. For example, we're not going to continue the old constitution. We're saying to you, the old constitution, you can't even tinker with it. There's no point in trying to improve it. It's unimprovable. It is a bad constitution, so we're going to throw it out totally. We have to have a completely new constitution. And it has to start with the basic premise that you are sovereign. None of the other politicians are going to tell you that truth, that you are sovereign, because they know what that means. If they accept your sovereignty, it means they have to change the entire system to focus on protecting your sovereignty. The purpose of government is to protect your sovereignty, and the purpose of a constitution is to protect you from government. Bottom line. Yeah? So, what's your thought in regard to the royals coming and seeing our parliamentarians bowing to them? My thoughts is that is reprehensible. It is a shame. I have no regards for those who are the embodiment and symbol of slavery, those who stand on the destruction of other people and continue to benefit from and enjoy the wealth created therefrom. So I will not be welcoming any of those royals to my country, and I will never bow to them, and I will never support anything at all that they support. I'm 100% opposed to anything called royalty because no human being is superior to another, none whatsoever. So I respect no royalty. So, for example, even in our black consciousness movement, when you hear them talking about we also had kings and emperors, I don't buy that. I'm not interested in having any kings or emperors. I'm interested in only one thing, and it is to respect the sovereignty of all men. Every one of us must be respected as sovereign. So when I hear, prime ministers talking about their government is sovereign. What are you talking about? No government is sovereign. Governments, where they exist, should exist to protect the sovereignty of every individual citizen. Notice I don't say the collective. I'm not talking about the collective sovereignty. I'm talking about individual sovereignty. And from individual sovereignty comes collective sovereignty. So we as individuals are sovereign, and we come together to organize ourselves to put in place a government to protect our individual sovereignty and to protect our collective sovereignty, right? And so if we get that clear, then we can better understand the role of government, if we get that clear. So Paul Dillon says, Mr. Patterson, again, why can't you go on the major radio stations, even have a debate with the Prime Minister? Paul, that's not for me to decide. I am ready and willing to debate anybody. The Prime Minister or the opposition leader, I am more than willing to have a discussion or a debate with them. So it's a matter of them. I've always remained open to that. What do you mean we're sovereign? Isn't a sovereign person not subject to laws by anyone? Deborah, a sovereign person is a person who has the right to their life, their liberty, and their property, and no one has the right to take that away from them. A sovereign person within the context of a country is a part of that country as an individual separate and apart from all others. And so that person agrees to have a government that is going to protect his or her sovereignty as well as protect the sovereignty of all other individuals. So I hope you can understand that, right? So a sovereign person simply means that nobody No group, no government has the right to infringe on your life, your liberty, or your property using force or fraud. Yeah. So laws can then be created. The laws are created respecting that sovereignty. So all the laws that are created to make sure that neither your neighbor, any other individual, nor any other group in society, or the government itself has the right to use force or fraud against you. Except now, if you choose to use force or fraud against somebody else, then the government that you are a part of, by virtue of saying we're going to have a government that we're going to give the responsibility to police and to protect those rights. Yeah. Uh, Deborah says, so if no one can take their liberty, how do we punish criminals? Deborah, that's the point. A criminal is anyone who wants to use force or fraud against somebody else. So the purpose of government is to protect you from criminals, not to be a criminal itself. Right? So the government is to protect you from criminals. Anybody who wants to use force or fraud to take away your life, or to take away your liberty, or to take away your property, that person is a criminal, including any politician or any government. So when you have a truly republic, a true republic, the government can be accused of being a criminal. Whenever the government tries by any means to use force or fraud, to initiate force or fraud against someone who is not doing something wrong. So a person who is not trying to steal, a person who is not trying to kill, if the government uses force or fraud against them, then that government is now seen to be doing something illegal. And that's why you need a proper constitution. So if we were all woke, says Norma, we know it's going to be a fight, tooth and nail, for UIC, maybe even sabotage. Unity is a lot more strength. Transparency and truth is key in any organization, also having people's best interest at heart when one has rule. Yeah, so Norma, definitely. That's why the UIC, we're a united bunch and we're uniteds. Ermina says, why? Oh, sorry, they don't want to talk to Mr. Patterson. It will be a knockout. Thank you, Ermina, for your confidence. Yeah, I would welcome the chance to speak with the Prime Minister and the opposition leader about how we can move this country forward quickly. And it begins with accepting that the system we have now isn't working. And well, it's working. It's working for those who it was supposed to work for, but it's not working for we the people. So we have to get in and solve that. How do you plan to make Jamaica truly independent from the British? And is the process easier, challenging one? Don, we plan to simply assert our right to have a new constitution. So we're gonna write a new constitution, vote on it by referendum, and it will simply do away with the Queen and do away with the Governor General and do away with the colonial system of economics and politics and education and so on. Yeah. Um, the hardest part of it is really you and me. We agreeing that we want to do this and deciding to do it. I don't really care much about the other parties and what they have to say because it's our country, right? It's our lives, it's our country. We decide what to do with it. So the challenging part is for us to agree that we want to get rid of what's not working and vote for the UIC to do different. As much as your supporters want to stone me to death, I agree what Jamaica needs is its own constitution. What is there now as a document to pacify the people, not a constitution. Thank you, Deborah. So we agree on at least one thing. I'm very happy for that. Janet says Jamaica don't have an opposition as far as I can see. The truth is, Janet, we don't need an opposition, but I know what you mean. So right now, the two colonial parties are operating in sync. They're doing what is expected of them by the colonial masters. But What we need in Jamaica is a Congress. What we need is not a partisan system, but a unifying system. And it doesn't mean in a unifying system we will all agree. What it means is that we understand that having a partisan model is dangerous, it is unhelpful, destructive. We need a consensus building model, and the UIC has designed that. Yeah. So I see Paul is saying that I'm similar to Michael Manley. Um, okay. I mean, I don't know if maybe I guess the part where uh, if the idea is that Manley was genuinely interested in um, liberating the Jamaican people, yes, then I would be similar to Michael Manley in that sense. If it is about um, policies, then he and I are different in some ways. Our approach is quite different. So, for example, Manley, interestingly enough, he studied economics. I think that was his major. His first degree was in economics, but Manley didn't apparently understand economics very well, and that was one of his downfalls because um, he didn't understand that you can't just borrow money and set up loosely cooperatives and give people all of these equipment and seeds and fertilizer, um, and they don't have a clue. They don't really understand how to be how to run a corporation, how to build a corporation that has the proper principles and policies to work effectively. And so what Manley ended up doing with that approach was to put the country in severe debt while suffering the natural consequence of persons who um, are going to look out for their self-interest, but they're not educated and informed enough to understand what their self-interest was. And so when you borrow money and give people like that to go ahead and do things, you end up with them stealing the very products from themselves and from the government and selling it and abusing it and failing to operate it properly. And then the country has a huge debt, but no production to show for it. So dangerous. Right now, I feel like asking Mr. Patterson to please see if he would excuse the platform for a little, and we all are gonna ask Miss Deborah Messam to place herself on there to answer all these questions. Ma'am, you are so disgusting. Okay, I understand how you feel, but free speech. So let's hear from Deborah. Um, so cool guy says it's constructive criticism. So yeah, let's keep it constructive. Um, that would be lovely. So Deborah, what other questions do you have? We have a few minutes. What else do you are you know? I'm happy to answer them. I don't think we should chase Deborah Messam off the live as long as she's being respectful. And I didn't see anything disrespectful that she said. Maybe she's just, I wasn't reading all of them though. So Deborah, go ahead. What do you want to talk about? Les Brown says, JLP and PNP not going to have a debate with you anytime soon. They're afraid of you because you will educate the people too much. I know that they're very, very afraid. That's why, if you notice, this is so disgusting. Eh? We have the UIC is a registered political party in Jamaica, and every public issue that comes up, the mainstream media ask the two other parties what their views are on the issue, or maybe one of them created the news, and they ask the other party what is their view, but they don't ask the UIC what is our view. So they never come on and ask, normally, once in a while if it's to their advantage for some particular reason. But generally speaking, they do not ask the UIC to comment on any issue. So the Jamaican people don't know that we exist, some Jamaican people, yeah? So Deborah says, how are you going to circumvent the issue of the CG? What is the CG, Deborah? What is that particular thing referring to? The issue of the CG. Janet, we love Deborah. She's legitimately a UIC fan. Wonderful. Janet Ewan says, you have been using some of your ideas little by little. Yes, they have been using the ideas, but here's the problem, Janet. They're not really, they're just using them as talking points so that they can steal the words, they can steal the phrase. But I'd be very happy if they would actually steal the idea itself, like really steal the idea and really implement it, because then they'll be doing something good. But they're not stealing the idea, they're stealing the talking points, using it to disarm the UIC by getting the people to hear it from them first, so that when they hear it from us eventually, they don't see the connection. Yeah. So Deborah says you should win your first issue to deal with is the CG, Governor General. Okay, that would be GG then, right? So the the Governor General is not my issue. He just needs to go, right? The Governor General goes when we get rid of the Constitution. So the UIC is simply going to get rid of the Constitution. The one that's there now, we're going to replace it. So we're going to come to Jamaican people like we have. We're going to say, here is the new Jamaica. Here's the vision. Here's the new way that we'll operate. Here's how we're going to be properly governed. And the Jamaican people will say, yeah, we like that. And so they vote for the UIC. And then we come in, we do the formal aspect of it now by putting together a paid constitutional committee, because right now it's just volunteers who have done all of this work. A paid constitutional committee. And once we are, it puts forward all of the formal documentation now, publicize the same on the government website, get the media a buzz, critiquing it and talking about it, going around the island in town hall meetings and having the people see me and other members of the constitutional committee face to face and ask us questions and build confidence. And then we have a referendum. I expect to have all of this done within the first year of my administration, and then Jamaica would have effected its, or at least approved, the complete change. Now, in the next 4 years after that, because I'll have one a 5 year term initially, the next 4 years after that, we will now start to put in all the regulations to support the approved constitution. And then we will have our first election under the new constitution at the end of the 5 years of my first administration. Then we will have, a contest for president, VP for the three counties, election for the 14 senators, the House of Representatives, and then we'll now have the new Congress, the new Constitution coming into effect at the end of my first and only 5 year term under the old system. And after that, we now move into the new system. Yeah. Yeah. Don is asking, if we win local government, how will it affect the existing government? Very good. Well, if we win local government, we'll be able to begin to effect changes at the local level. We'll be able to have a platform to better communicate with the people at the local level and influence what's happening at the national level by virtue of the work we're doing at the local level, and will become, in a sense, a real counter to the existing government, and as such be able to, bring the Jamaican people along further in the new Jamaica that we're talking about. Yeah. The UIC supports free speech, that's for sure. Vincenzo. Good to see you on, Vincenzo Crawford, one of our candidates over there in Manchester. He says, I believe she's genuine, which is good. Sports Fanatics says, I think at this point we can concur Deborah is on board. Janet Ewan, the biggest problem for you right now is to educate the public so that they're aware of the UIC. Well, it's our problem there, Janet. You're a part of it too. So we all have to educate. Bear in mind, we we are not accorded um, the basic uh, courtesy of the media being a good journalist and just simply reporting on the UIC's position, because that alone would make a big difference. Eh? If Jamaicans would simply hear every night when they watch their TV and they hear GLP PNP, they also heard GLP PNP UIC and they hear this is what the GLP is doing, this is what the PNP is saying, this is what the UIC is saying. That's all. It would have made a big difference. So it's a bigger battle because we have to now fight to find a way and being without a lot of money. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a challenge, you know. Mr. Patterson, how do you get a vote ID for voting? UIC can go to the register of. So Paul, the way you get your ID is to go to the electoral office in your area. So every parish has an electoral office of Jamaica. Just find the one in your area, go there and give them your information, and they will walk you through the process. It's quite simple, a little old-fashioned and archaic, but simple, so you can get it done. Garnet says they're going to try to use your ideas as their own. They're already doing that. So they're borrowing a lot, and everything I say they parrot it and they do things. So it's not going to be easy in that regard, but it's okay because what I'm noticing is that Jamaicans are getting really tired of the two of them and are much more open now to the thinking of the UIC. Yeah. The same old tired strategies isn't working as it used to. So it's getting, it's the people are ripe for change. The people are ready for change right now. I can see that. It's just that the UIC doesn't have the money to just go out and do everything to communicate with the people. We just don't have the money. We're getting funds coming in, which is good. We have some great candidates who are working, like Marlon Douglas, I see on here, and Vincenza Crawford and Latoya Wolf. These people are all working in their constituency, doing their best with limited resources. So, what we all have to do is to make sure we donate to the movement and help it to work. Okay? Um, Deborah says, "Why don't you have the money?" Oh, Deborah, we don't have the money because we are ordinary Jamaicans who are not super wealthy. The super wealthy persons fund the other two parties. And so the two parties that have been ruling us for 78 years, they're fully funded by the super wealthy in Jamaica and by their external helpers outside of Jamaica. And also, they have access to our tax dollars. We don't. Yeah. People in Southeast St. Elizabeth don't know, I think that means of or UIC. Yes, there are many parts in Jamaica where people are still not very aware of the UIC. So if you're there, just spread the word, introduce them to the UIC, let them know that we're here, and work from there. Have you seen the polls? Says Builder All Affiliate. What polls, Builder? Tell me about it. Which poll are you talking about? Um, Deborah says, "Are you against getting support from businesses?" No, we're not against getting support from businesses. We're happy to take funding from anyone that believes in what we stand for. If you're going to give us funding to change what we stand for, then no. But we will accept funding from anyone who believes in what we are fighting for. If you are for freedom, the UIC is for you. If you believe in government being able to rule, dictate, and control, and limit, and give special treatments to whichever subgroup, then the UIC is not the place for you. Yeah? If this was some gossip, there would be more people here. Some people that's normal, eh? People love gossip. They don't necessarily like this kind of thing. But that's fine. They will follow you. So once you take it seriously, when the time comes, they will ask, "So what must do?" And you tell them this is the way to go. Yeah. Janet says Gilda thinks she is in America talking about polls. What will you do to stop them from thief the election? Well, the key thing, Connie, is for us to make sure we have what you call workers, in each of the polling divisions. So we plan to have at least 12 workers in each polling division. So you have 2 persons flagged for indoor agency, 2 persons flagged for outdoor agency, plus some other workers to monitor what's going on. The electoral process has improved over the years, so it's not as bad as it used to be in terms of ballot stealing and so on. But it's still possible that they will try to steal the election. So let us be vigilant. So all of us need to just make sure that we're aware, we pay attention, and call them out as when we see anything, and let us know. Reach out to us on our telephone line if you see anything or hear anything that is, untoward. I'm posting the telephone number here. You can see it and follow. If the UIC wins, what will be the first thing done on day one in governance? Dan is asking, what would be the first thing done on day one? Well, Danny, it's not that simply. Our primary objective is to change the system. So from day one, we're seeking to pursue how to quickly and efficiently change the system while protecting the economy of the Jamaican people. Yeah. So on day one, it is to begin that process. Yeah, of transitioning. There are lots to be done. We're going to shrink the size of government. We're going to eliminate immediately any laws and regulation that's stifling small and micro businesses. We're going to empower our teachers, police officers, and nurses by policy and so on. X-Dog says we're tired of both of them. Absolutely, me too. Deborah says, I am not your troll. I listen and watch because there are things I think you say that make sense. I do think you talk too much about the vaccination issue. Well, Deborah, you're the one mentioning that. I haven't said a word about vaccination tonight, and just for the record, we're not talking about a vaccination because it's not a vaccination, right? So uh, let's not bring that up. That's what they're actually controlling us right now. If I were you, Deborah, I would be so afraid to live in a society where people can't speak freely. If I were to freely now talk about that issue right now, tomorrow they lock down YouTube. No, that's dangerous. I mean, all of us should be so concerned that we now live in a society where you cannot freely share your thoughts, your opinions, your concern without big government, big data, big pharma coming together and locking down our freedom of speech. Now, these things mean a lot to the UIC because we love freedom like food. For us, freedom is non-negotiable. You know, it's non-negotiable. Freedom, non-negotiable. It must never be. We must never have a system where people cannot freely speak their mind. We're not talking about being rude, or anything, but freely speak your mind. Stacy is saying, how can we in the diaspora vote overseas? You can't, Stacy. The current system is not designed for the diaspora to participate in our electoral process unless you take a plane and come here and register, have a home here or an address here you can use, and then fly and come back here to vote. Only when the UIC is elected will you have a system where every Jamaican, regardless of where they are in the world, they'll be able to vote. So the UIC is going to make it possible by electronic voting for every Jamaican anywhere in the world to register and to vote. But right now, the current system The two major parties, they're afraid of the diaspora. They don't want the diaspora involved in Jamaica's politics because you know why? They know that the people in the diaspora are not as easily fooled. Yeah, because the people in the diaspora are very, very, they know that. That's why they don't even want you to come back here. They want you to send a remittance and don't get involved. So Paul is saying, Mr. Patterson, do you have security from? Okay, I missed that. It's gone. In this life, you'll always find some who prefer to remain ignorant, especially your older ones. It is as with anything in life, folks are always going to be more comfortable with what them familiar with. Fear tends to steal many people's dreams. Thank you for that, Norma. Yes, but I want to tell you something, Norma. I'm quite impressed. A large number of members are persons who you would think are too old to change. Some of them are older than me, and they have made the conscious decision that they want what the UIC is offering, and they're tired of the same old, same old. Yeah. Um, uh, Len Wert is saying you are a breath of change, and the change that Jamaica need will be one to help make that change. Yes. Need some cameras to bring in the election, project Veritas style. Not sure what you mean, Asha, but thanks for that. Please put an end to the criminal network, please. XDOL, yes, with your help, if we get elected, we're going to have a top-down approach. And the biggest criminals in Jamaica are in our parliament, in the upper echelon of our police service, or police force rather, and in our business community at the very top. They are the masterminds of much of what you see happening, to be honest. And so we have to get it from there. This is what they used to get away with tricking the people by not allowing us to be able to exercise our right to vote from overseas. Absolutely. They don't want you, Janet, to be an integral part of the electoral outcome. They like what they're doing here in Jamaica, where they're effectively getting less and less of us here to even vote. And they're happy with that. They're very happy that, the current government is only elected by 21% of us. The present system doesn't allow for that, but the UIC will reform the system. Yes, Marlon. When you're elected, speak it into being. Thank you, Janet. When we're elected, definitely. I agree with that. With age comes wisdom. Thank you for giving the elders hope from the same old, same old. Absolutely, Janet. I'm quite impressed. I'm very happy with what I'm seeing. The people, young people, old people, middle-aged people, many Jamaicans home and abroad see the UIC as the change that they have been hoping for all of their lives. And so we're going to get there. Yeah. So thank you all very much. We've spent a good time together. It's been a while since I've been on. So I'm very happy to be back. And I look forward to speaking with you again very soon. So have yourselves a lovely night. And please take the time to look up this thing called the minimum wage. Don't be afraid to learn new information. Don't be afraid to challenge old assumptions and what you thought was right, because it's okay. We can learn new things. We can discover that what we believed was so isn't so after all. We can discover that we have been lied to, we have been tricked, we have been deceived by things that even sound very nice and seem so innocent and so good intentioned. But it's not enough to look at good intention. It's more important to understand the real impact of what's going on. So everyone, like, share, subscribe, and please go to our website, www.uicjamaica.com. uicjamaica.com. It's on the screen here. Please donate. Help us to help you. Have a good night, and thanks again. All the best.